So we're going to look at the vegetables now. And a few considerations to make is that, so prior to European exploitation, Africa's food fed them adequately. And however, preferences among colonizers led to development and preferences for some crops over another, especially for ones that were not native to the environment. And according to the committee, their historical plant migration around the world, both from Africa and colonization, led to more monocultural practices, thus reducing the diversity of Africa. So while much literature is available on what crops Europeans introduced to Africa, there is little narrative on what was introduced from Africa. So even though they noted that many Africans remain largely dependent on traditional food plants until about 5 centuries ago, when adventurers and slavers sailed the western seabound and introduced a collection of crops. And then the end result of these historical trends was that most of Africa's food these days come from a mere 20 or so crops, almost all of foreign extraction. Like grains and fruits, Africa's ancient vegetables were vulnerable to the sweep of these events. So these African vegetables range from a mixture of unfamiliar as well as familiar vegetables. And these include our amaranth, bambara beans, the baobab, right, the celosia leaves, the cowpeas, the eggplant, locust bean, and native potatoes here. You have the okra, native potatoes over here. And so Africa is often not associated with diversity in fruits or vegetables, however, a closer look at the available nutrients can provide some insights into the nutritional values of the vegetables. It's important to note that there was a shift in crops that was dependent on what was most appealing on the market to Europeans, without necessarily regard for what was best for African subsistence. And this practice continues even today, when you have large companies such as, pharmaceutical companies, for example, might take over small subsistence farms and exchange for promises to Africans if they grow one monocultural pharmaceutical products at the expense of these subsistence crops. And if you look at the amaranth leaf is known actually for its high protein content, and it's actually used for fortifying weaning foods using the amaranth leaf flour in India, for example, as well as for its vitamin C, which is important for children. So the bambara beans over here is noted for bambara milk, preferably it's the mothers and babies tend to favorite is bambara milk there. When comparing the eggplant in Africa, which is 92% water, the authors noted, and I quote, "By the standards of the modern Western world, this veggie is a diet doctor's dream, low in sodium, low in calories, high in fiber, and a good source of potassium." So in contrast, and you can pause this to read, I'm not going to read through this, but I do want to say the varieties of the high nutritional, these grains and vegetables and fruits from Africa, they really stand in contrast to the fewer selections of foods that were introduced into these environments and the new Americas. And so these selection of foods in the United States based on higher yields, albeit the lower nutritional values, or selected on the basis of high monetary and economic value. And I'm repeating these again purposefully. This is supported by additional need to supplement foods and fortification of foods and enriching grains like rice. And so it seems that the idea of fullness or even being satisfied once food was measured using a scale of abundance, even as noted by the authors, some of the African foods were in them of themselves known for how filling they were, because of the characteristics of the grains, the vegetables, or the fruit. And feel free to pause when this recording is made available to read some of the descriptions.